We are recording now. Hi, this is Alice Emerson with the Holistic Chamber of Commerce in Mount Pleasant, South Carolina, and I'm here with Neelma Pyfrom. And Neelma is with Living Lotus Life Coaching, and she's a member of the Chamber, founding member, so thank you very much for being here, because you have such an interesting background, and you're here to share with us some great information about this COVID-19, which will forever be in history, but embracing the new norm. So thank you for being here. And Neelma, I've got this whole list of your background here. So Neelma's graduated from the Colgate University with a bachelor's in philosophy and religion.
Yeah.
Graduated with a master's from Duke in religious studies. With your master's thesis was on cyber networks of queer Muslims.
Yeah.
Very interesting. And after working for a while, you took some time off to raise your family. And that's when I met you in the family neighborhood.
Yes.
Yes. And I love the journey that brings you here to the life coaching that you're doing. Because when it was time for you to return to work, you started having to deal with anxiety and the challenges of work-life balance. And with that, you could see the anxiety that you were dealing with trickling down to the kids, right? Yeah. So, with that journey and handling that and getting your own life coach, you were able to really learn a lot, but you got into some meditation practice, and you can dive into this a bit deeper, but you realized after going through your own journey and your journey with your daughter that you wanted to do the same for others and start helping them deal with this work-life balance in the journey, and you became a certified life coach.
That's correct. Right?
Yeah. Specializing, and the whole family, teens, 10 and up, basically, males, females, anxiety, sexuality, and spirituality.
Yeah, LGBTQ, very close to my heart. So very important for us, and especially for adolescents and teens nowadays.
Yeah. So you have a great background, and I learned something new about you. I didn't know, that you had philosophy and religion.
Oh, I'm a philosophy junkie, and I do love religious studies. That's actually helped to kind of translate over into the spirituality part of my life coaching. So that's become quite diverse as I've used it, for sure.
Well, I'm glad you're here with us, and because we are facing a new norm, right? Everybody's talking about this, and so just tell us a little bit about, how you want to guide us from, I'm going to start with the end, okay? Because I read your blog on your website, which was really, really good. But, you challenge us to say, when the decade passes us by, right? When decades, I'm going to read it right from here. When decades passes by, what would you want your kids to say at this time? What do you want them to say of these days? There'll be moments your kids will say that you broke down, you yelled, you cried, or you just lost your shit, right? And they'll say there are those moments where parents are human, right? We are human. So, but then let your kids see you rise above the depression, the anxiety, and isolation, and embrace the new day with a smile on your face and gratitude in your heart. I love that. And I want to take that journey, because some people are still in that depression, anxiety, isolation.
Yeah, I think the longer that we go through it, the longer that we go through it. I mean, when it first started, my husband and I, we were home, and we got the call that said, schools are closed. And I thought, I'm super type A, so I'm going to put together a schedule. I'm going to highlight it. I laminated it. It was bona fide. I was ready for how I was going to handle my job and the girls being home and teaching them. I have an 8-year-old and a 9-year-old, so they had their own specific curriculums. And so it was great. I was so prepared. And then after the first day, it went to shit.
Oh, God.
I mean, they interrupted me constantly. I was flustered. I was agitated. It wasn't working. And so I realized I had to dial down. I had to figure out what was needed at this time. And the reality is, they're going through as much change as we are. They're struggling. What they know to be their normal has changed. They're not seeing their friends. They don't have their teacher's support. I'm not a teacher. at all. Oh my gosh, like regrouping, what is that? This whole thing that they do, I don't understand that. I'm trying to explain borrowing, and she's looking at me like I'm some sort of like alien. So
you didn't learn Common Core, I'm sure.
No, not at all. She's like base 10. I'm like, who is that? So we were trying to go through all of that. Slowly but surely we fell into a rhythm of sorts. And I was like, okay, I can do this. And then spring break hit. So that was 2 weeks ago. Came back from spring break, and I swear it was like starting back at day one.
What happened to the laminated schedule and all of your expectations?
Oh, yeah. No, I believe I cut that up. I cut that up because that was not going to work. And I kind of did a little soul searching. There were the moments I broke down to my husband. I was like, I can't do this. Why can't I do this? And, we were together in a lot of it. We sat down, we allied, we talked about it. We figured out what had to be done. We went through different options, what worked best for our family, what didn't work best. We also have an 8-month-old puppy. So, there's that to add into the mix. And I think we were all focusing on what was lost the whole time. Like, oh no, we're not at school. We've lost school. We've lost, I'm lucky. I can work from home. That's great. There are a lot of people out there, especially those on the front lines, they don't have that option. And that's hard. There are people losing their livelihoods. What is lost? It was lost everywhere I turned, losing access to this. Can't go to Trader Joe's without a mask. Can't go to Ulta or anything of the sort. Mm-hmm. But we had to start focusing on what we gained. And there, I think, was the mental shift. Here we are. I'm actually teaching my daughter math. Granted, it's not pretty. But,
or she's teaching you.
Or she's teaching me. And I figured out that my younger daughter, she doesn't do well with just being spoken to. She likes to teach mom. So I have a dry erase board. I give her a marker. You teach me how you subtract. And
so you got to know your children a little bit better and their learning style.
Yeah. I mean, we bike riding and, when we had boating, that was an option. We, would just take walks, just talk to each other. Family game night. Sorry, we had so many options. And I know this is not an option for a lot of people, but it helped us get through it. It's what we gained. Right now, I think there's no constant. It's all like mathematically, they're all variables, they're all in motion. And so here we are trying to figure out, well, how do I adjust to this? How do I adjust to that? I don't have a choice in the matter because the governor said X or Y, but you do. And the minute you start seeing that you have a choice, your choice lies in how you're going to react to this news. How are you going to react and incorporate the new life into what you already have? So yes, you can't go to the store. It's become a very different process. How do you adjust to that? And that's where I think, initially when we heard about all of it, there was some tears, there was some anger, there was some upset, there was fear. Fear is rampant. But then it was, okay, let me step back. And that's when your kids are going to see, okay, my mom and dad are human. They can grow too, though. It's not just the kids grow, mom and dad grow. Mom and dad learn. I always talk about the humanity of parenting. You're not given a kid with a cape and matching undies. Like you're not, you have this paragon of parenthood, especially on social media.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and those are just snapshots in a perfect life. Am I going to show you the moments when I'm sitting there crying because I can't teach my daughter math or she's upset with me for something I don't understand? No, probably not. I'm going to show you the happy family.
You're going to show me the bike ride pictures and how perfect your, moment was, because that's a happy moment you want to capture. It's not that you're intending to be on what some people call fake book.
I never heard
Facebook.
that.
Everybody puts their best news out there, right?
Oh, yes.
So, but behind the scenes, like you're saying, there are these real moments where it's like,
It's life edited. The fact that I can tweak what I have to say about it and be like, oh yeah, that doesn't sound right. This sounds better, and put my, emojis and stuff in there and post it. That's what's important, and that's great. That's great to have that celebration. But you have to realize what also is going on in that person's life. You don't know if they're in an abusive relationship. You don't know if they don't have food. You don't know any of this stuff. And it becomes I think there's a reality that COVID has brought forth, and it is real. I hadn't worn makeup in like, I don't know, a month. I'm like, okay, my gray hairs are coming out. All right. And in a way, I love it. I love that truth.
In the end, you're still the same person.
Exactly.
Right? So I guess that inward look,
yes,
is almost a confidence booster, that your neighbors still like you even if your gray hair is coming in, right?
Yeah, we all laugh at
if your kids are out there in their pajamas at 11 a.m.
Yeah, they say if you can't go outside, go inside. Yeah. And so it's been a lot of soul searching. I've actually been able to have some pretty real conversations with my daughters. I've noticed my little one will come and all of a sudden she'll just want to sit on my lap. She doesn't want to talk. She just wants to sit. Okay, then you sit. And then when we want to talk, sure, we'll talk about it. What's going on? Well, I'm just upset and I miss my friends. And okay, well, I can always schedule a Zoom call for you to see your friends. And my husband too, we are all in it together. But as everything starts to change, the more you resist, the more suffering it will bring, the harder it will bring. And this is easy to say, when, yes, I can work from home. My kids are here. I'm not a single mom. I'm not a single dad. And those folks really, I give them all the credit in the world for how they get through this. They have to have a certain measure of faith, and it's impressive. They are, but it's those moments that build you. If it doesn't break you, it will build you.
Yeah. Yeah. We're in South Carolina, so the weather is nice. Yeah. Like you said, for a while, we even had boating options, but we still are able to get outside because the weather's it's really beautiful. And biking and seeing the neighbors, and you get to work from home because you do have, and so does your husband. And so other people have that paradigm as well. Right.
Yeah.
And then there's, where people aren't used to working together so closely, or one has lost and kids want to eat all day. So we have, what would you say, like, how would you advise that not so, when somebody's in not such a good place at this point, where they have lost income, they're not able to work from home, and, there's 700 people in the food bank line before them. And, we're talking about being resilient and, having a heart of gratitude. That's really a place where some people end up really feeling almost, angry, or even ashamed for feeling angry. So how would you coach or advise, somebody in that place?
I would say be real to yourself. It doesn't make sense to sugarcoat something. If you're angry, be angry. And I think self-care is key. And I don't mean getting rid of the gray hairs and going to the salon and doing any of that. I mean, if you need those 5 minutes to go turn on the shower and scream your head off because you need that moment of just release because you're not going to make it, you go right ahead and you do it. You do what you can when you can, and you hope for the best. The reality is there is a lot of people coming together like I have not seen before, thinking about the folks on the front lines, thinking about, my mom works in a hospital. And she said, the people aren't just bringing food for the nurses, they're bringing food for the transporters, for the EVS folks. She's like, because they remember they're the ones that are also on the front lines. They're also with those patients. But for the folks who have it really, really hard, it will pass. And there will be a norm. There will be a shift. There will always be a shift. But just because right now the shift is where hold on, hold tight to yourself, hold tight to your children, those items over which you have control. Maybe it's just your kids are in the room with you. Maybe it's just your husband's there. Whatever you have, whatever little you have, hold tight to that, because that will get you through. And if you can build that bridge and you can really solidify those bonds, when it changes and that new revolution starts to take place, you will be that much greater for the cohesion that you have, because you're in it as a family, you're in it together. And even if you're in it alone, dig deep, find it, because like I said, it's what you have control over.
Right. And that's digging deep. And you had talked about having a gratitude, an attitude of gratitude, basically.
Yeah.
And it really is a mindset, you know?
Yeah. I talk about sometimes,
yeah.
Oh, gratitude and grievance. I don't know if you've ever heard that term, but gratitude and grievance is, I'm really upset about X or Y. But why am I upset about X or Y? Because I'm actually able to have X or Y, or there's an option for that. So it's actually, something I actually cultivate with the girls that, well, Mom, my Facebook, friend didn't send back my message. I'm like, right, but you have a friend, you have Facebook, you have a computer, you have a home, you have all these things. And they're like, oh, okay, yeah. I mean, I like to believe it goes further than that, but I like for them to see there's a lesson to be taught in all the grievances, because it's when you falter the most is when you grow the most.
That's interesting. So, the attitude of gratitude, and because some people can't get there, so you just helped us get there instead of focusing on what you're not getting, to really appreciate what you have. And even those that are alone can, maybe, I know this used to help me, especially when I was alone, if the kids were with their dad, just to go out and help somebody else.
Yeah.
Instead of sitting there thinking about how lonely I was or what I didn't have, I was like, okay, let me go see what I can do for somebody else. And it immediately brightens up the world,
Oh, yeah.
if it's writing a card or, donating food to the food bank if you had it, right? But if you're in need of that, then it's really, I've seen a lot of generosity of people, and that the fact that our churches and the food banks are really helping people.
Send someone a letter. I mean, let people know you're thinking of them. I mean, Zoom calls are great.
Yeah.
But when you get that handwritten letter, I remember as a kid, I'd get a handwritten letter from like a pen pal or something. I think she was, I don't know where she was. I think she was in Iowa. And I would get so excited. I mean, you can do that for someone. You can sit down and
the mail is still going.
Mail is still going. There are little things. You don't have to buy them an Amazon package. You don't have to say, if you can, great. But just think about others. Think about what you can give. Think about what you have and what you can give.
It's funny. I think I have every letter or card that was ever mailed to me.
That's awesome.
It's probably my garage is full. No, there's not that many. No, that it is. It's very meaningful. It's very meaningful, and it may not even, so I love that. I think that's a great suggestion for people who are not being able to, communicate or because of social distancing. Yeah. It doesn't mean you really have to be that distant or isolated, right?
It's true. Yes. Social distance is not isolation. It's two totally different things. If you sit in a dark room with no windows and you don't speak to anyone and you're just there, then yes, you have isolated yourself. But, they say we're all in this together alone. But yes, it's true. We are all in this together, but we're not all the same. I think I read a post that we're all in the same storm, but not all in the same ship.
Yeah.
And maybe there's some people whose boats are super leaky. There are people whose boats are okay. And even for us, there are days when things are like, okay, I got this. I did this. I handled it. And then days where you just put your head in your hands, and you just have to take stock of where you are. I'm even in life coaching, holding space is huge. Holding space means I am able to, you and I were having a conversation, give you a non-judgmental, full acceptance space and time where you can tell me what you have to tell me without wondering how it's going to be accepted. And the greatest thing I think I could ever teach my clients is to hold space for themselves, because we are so hyper judgmental of ourselves. And when you can say, I'm going to hold space for myself and I'm going to say what I have to say, acknowledge and be real instead of stuffing back the tears, or I have to put on a brave face. For who? For what? It's not necessary. But when you can actually hold space for yourself, that's really powerful. And because at that point, you're deserving of it. There's a self-love that goes with that too. You're deserving of whatever it is you think you may have done wrong or you failed at. It's okay. Tomorrow's a new day.
Right. I love that. And so in your coaching, are you Are you able to do Zoom calls like this with people and still offer services and holding space for them? I love that you hold space. And that truly is who you are. I mean, even as a human being.
Yeah.
So I can imagine the level of, compassion that you have in your coaching. So
I am very lucky in that, I mean, we can actually have Zoom calls and talk. And you know what? And I tell them, if we're having a Zoom call and your daughter, your son, or your dog jumps up, and it's all good. It's all good. This is real. This is where we're at now. Because, usually if you do a Zoom call, they're like, can you go to a quiet space so that you can really, but that's their life. And in a way, it actually is rather eye-opening as a coach, because you're like, so this is the dog you always talk about, or there's your little boy I hear so much about. So it's nice because you're actually then very much part of their family in that way. But yes, and also just for this time period as well, I'm offering just a free session if anybody needs just to empty out and just have someone to listen or hold space for them. I'm also offering sliding scale, whatever. I mean, I have a client who pays me in jewelry, which is great because I love jewelry. So I'm very open because I think, and you're right, you do see the generosity in people now, as other friends of mine are offering things, whatever they can do. They're sewing masks, they're putting together food. It's amazing how everyone has come, because it is a global pandemic, but look how the globe has come together. The earth is healing. The universe has definitely tested us in a very, very interesting way. Because you're right, you never think about this. Never think this would happen.
No, this is definitely not something you can plan for. And, we have these hurricane plans, the tornado plans, the emergency plans, I should say, and kits, but you couldn't really prepare for this one. So it's how we're dealing with it and how we want to be remembered. And, especially when we have children, how do you handle crisis? And you've given us some really good tools, to help along with that. And the fact that your life coaching and your focus and your generosity for offering a free coaching session, just for those who need to maybe have somebody that they can trust and that will confidentially hold space for them in a loving and compassionate way, but also in a way that you can give them real tools, to move forward. And I know you do meditation as well.
I do.
So
I do.
yeah, do you ever do? Is that on your website? Do you have any sample meditations that we could share?
I do not. But actually, I was actually listening to one on my run today. So we have like I said, the 8-month-old puppy. So I'm actually training her to run with me. And so we were listening to one this morning. It's about it's called Tonglen, which it's a very, very interesting Buddhist meditation, because it actually forces you to embrace the suffering. And so typically the practitioner will take in the suffering and the heaviness of the hurt, of someone else's hurt, of their own hurt, and you breathe that in. You sit with that. And when you breathe out light and love and acceptance. So a lot of times, when breathing techniques are, you breathe in the bad and you breathe out the good. This is actually the reverse of it. It's very powerful. And she was actually talking about how to just do that kind of on a quick basis, to just stop, slow down. And I think that's one thing I've learned now is slow down. Throughout all this quarantine, there is no rush for maybe toilet paper. There might be a rush for toilet paper. But other than that, it's a slowing down. It's a take a minute to take a breath. And, but yeah, I definitely want to, I would like to be able to get into some more meditation stuff. But yeah, I mean, if someone would like me to help them with their meditation, we can totally do that as well. I love that.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much. I really do appreciate you, sharing your gift and being so generous as well. And I always love having conversations with you.
You too, Alice.
Yeah, it's so enlightening. So that's what we want to do. We want to be able to embrace the new day with a smile on your face and gratitude in your heart. And so
thank you, Alice.
Yes, you're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll post your information to your website, and then people can reach out to you and go ahead and take advantage of your Living Lotus Life coaching. So thank you, Neelma. Bye.
Bye.